Now, if you're working towards your press handstand, the wall is going to be your friend. The wall allows you to spend more time under tension throughout the pathway, allowing you to fine tune and spend time on the areas that you need to work on to fill the gaps in your press handstand. So today I'm going to take you through a back to wall press handstand, a chest to wall press handstand, wall leans, and we're going to cover the finer detail in those drills to make sure that you're doing them correctly for your current level. So first of all, we need to understand what happens in the press handstand. What is the pathway? So I'm going to open to my straddle position, so not much changes here. Hips will go back, feet will go forwards a little bit. Then I get as far as I can into my straddle width or my split. From the next thing that's going to happen is I need to turn the hip over, so I'm going to round the low back. And at that point, my feet go too far towards underbalance this direction. So I need to take my shoulders in the opposite direction. So when I'm there, I tuck under there through the pelvis, but notice my shoulders are coming forwards now to counterbalance the feet going in the opposite direction. And then I keep going through the pathway of the straddle until my toes lightly touch the floor. So understanding what happens there, where the shoulders come forwards at the right time, the hips roll over, so to be from that more anterior or neutral position in the pelvis to a posterior roll in towards flexion through the spine and come down is really important to understand for your limb length, your flexibility, and your timing and control. So let's isolate those two main things that happen there. We have the shoulders that close and open again, and we have the articulation of the spine or the rounding of the spine. Now, to understand that, we can lay on the floor. There's my straight handstand. I think I'm going to do an eccentric, so I'm going to open to straddle. I'm going to start to roll the spine now, so low back goes into the floor, mid back goes into the floor, upper back goes into the floor, and then I get my toes to the floor, and then I press back up to handstand, roll through the spine, mid back, low back touches the floor, then butt into my straddle handstand, into my straight handstand. So that rolling that happens is very important, unless we do more like a planche press where our back stays straight and we go up and down, which takes way more strength. But today, let's focus on that articulation. Let's focus on those shoulders using the wall. So let's isolate that shoulder movement. I'm going to externally rotate the hands. I'm going to kick up close-ish to the wall. First, I'm going to see if I can take my head to the wall and come back again. Now notice when I take the head there, my shoulders are moving with the head. I'm not just extending the head by itself. So I want the shoulder to heel to stay in the same line, the same connection. And I'm just going to take the shoulders now closer to the wall. And then the head's slowly going to come out the way to allow the shoulders to touch. Now that's quite tricky. We don't want to feel like we're going to collapse in this position, in this void in there. So you might need to work very close to the wall to start with, and then just build confidence and strength there, coming on and off the wall. Now what a lot of people do with this one is they stick their butt backwards into the wall. We don't want to do that. We want to think shoulders to the wall. The butt will go to the wall, but it's because the shoulders have taken it there. And then when I come back off, the shoulders are controlling the movement. Now this can be hard on the wrists. So if you feel it there, make sure you're externally rotating the hands. Make sure you're moving quite close to the wall. And then as you progress, you can move slowly further away. But if I do a press handstand close to the wall, you'll see the distance my shoulders have to move. So in the bottom position, shoulders are on top of hands. Now shoulders go a little bit further, closer to the wall. Now I lift up. Now watch the shoulders come back on top of the hands when I'm in the straight handstand. When I do the eccentric, shoulders start to come forwards now towards the wall, and then hold till I touch, and then come back again. So for my flexibility today, that's how much my shoulders needed to move forwards. So if I'm conditioning that range, that's the type of range that I should be moving when I do the shoulder wall lean drill. Now if I'm going to do that for repetitions, I'm going to kick up, I'm going to take the shoulders to the wall, and then I'm going to come back off, and I'm looking to get maybe 5 clean repetitions where I feel confident, strong. When I return back to the straight position, I'm not losing any height. We don't want to be collapsing at all. Notice I'm holding a conversation when I do it, so we don't want it to be our 1 rep max. Next, we can start to look at that spinal articulation. So we're going to add that on top of the shoulder lean. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to kick up to the wall. I'm going to take head and shoulders to the wall. Everything's against the wall now. I'm staying in a very strong position. I'm not collapsing. There, I'm going to open to straddle. I'm going to keep going as far as I can till I can't get any further without the low back now rounding. Now I'm going to push the low back into the wall, mid back into the wall, and I'm going to keep coming down, keeping the feet in line with the hands at the bottom, tippy toes touch, then come away from the wall. Now obviously I can control that all the way down because I can press the handstand already. What most people are going to find happens is that they're not going to get the articulation right, they're going to get their feet come too far in the opposite direction, and then they're going to get pulled off the wall early. Now we can make that easier or give yourself more room for error by moving the hands further away, but we don't want to go too far away. We really want to focus on trying to get the feet to come in towards the body, roll through the spine without the feet coming over here. But you have to be realistic with your flexibility, and if you need to, you might need to bend your knees. So exactly the same thing to the wall, and now as I come down, I'm going to bend the knees, which shortens the lever arm, allows me to roll through the spine a bit easier until I can find the floor. Now day one, when you try that exercise, you're probably not going to get all the way to the floor. It's going to take time. You might need to isolate, work on your flexibility from a mobility point of view or articulation point of view with the spine. Be able to roll through the spine, move each segment one by one, because most people move like this. We need to get that movement, mobility back so you can roll through the spine, make that much easier. Now, if you're more advanced with the back to wall version, we can use it where we only use the wall as a target. So with that one, I'm going to be a little bit closer to the wall. I maybe start there, or I'm going to start there. Now I'm going to open to straddle. My butt might lightly touch. Now my low back lightly touches. Now my mid back, now my upper back, and then I finish in that same position. Now that one's much harder because I'm basically handstanding, balancing away from the wall. I don't actually take the shoulders all the way to the wall. I'm not leaning on the wall. I'm just using it as a target as I go down. So butt, low back, mid back, upper back, tiptoes to the floor. So that one's definitely more advanced, but it's a good place to get to, especially when you start to work the freestanding eccentrics. Now we can use the back to wall to go up. So I can do that same start, externally rotating the hands, take the head, shoulders towards the wall, and now I can push up to that position and lift off at the top. Now that one again is tricky, it's demanding. We need to be careful of the wrists, and we don't want to go too far away because it is really false in terms of the stacking that needs to happen in the freestanding press handstand. Now we could close the gap slightly by using partial range for that drill. So exactly the same, I could go up only. So against the wall first, and then push up, come off the wall. I could do the eccentric. So starting against the wall, coming down to partial range, touch, and then come back up. So a few options there. But if you are playing with that partial range, I'd also make sure that you're doing something that goes all the way to the floor to make sure that you don't have any big gaps in range of motion in your training. Now let's look at the chest to wall handstand press. So now I'm going to start in a chest to wall position against the wall. This one's a little bit funky because I have this bit that juts out on the wall. But imagine this is a flat wall. Here I'm going to open into my straddle. Take the legs around. You'll notice the same things are going to happen. Shoulders are going to go forwards. I'm going to start to articulate through the spine all the way down. There's a little bit of a gap at the bottom where I have to float to get tiptoes to touch. Now that's a good drill in terms of forcing you into the correct position. It's a bad drill in terms of at the bottom, you're basically going to lose contact with the wall, and you need to have really good control to finish that last bit. So it's a good eye opener for the intermediate beginners, but might not be the best drill that allows full control through the full range of motion. Now do be careful if you're going to try this one, you don't want to go too far forwards or too close to the wall because you'll run out of space when you come down, and the wall is going to kick you off and it's going to make you feel like you're going to backsplat. So I would start very far away from the wall, work there first, even walk down the wall, understand what happens, and then here you're probably going to come too fast. But you can play with that distance, slow it down, and really focus on that rounding, that articulation of the spine as you transition from the straddle handstand through into the start of the eccentric press. Now the only time I use the concentric, so they're going up with the chest to wall version, is with someone who's advanced, who can already press handstand, but their press handstand maybe is a bit planchy, or they tend to take the legs backwards when they pass through their straddle. So one way of doing it is to put the wall in the way and slowly move the hands backwards, and that's just going to demand now more stacking, more flexibility to go up and around, so I now don't hit the wall. So I'm not actually touching the wall, I'm just using it as a barrier or a restriction to force me to bring my feet this way and not to plant so much with the shoulders and pike so much with the legs. Now you can use the wall in other ways. We can use it as just balance support. So if I'm practicing maybe a straddle jump to the wall, and then I'm going to slow that down to take me closer towards the press, but I don't have the balance to do lots of repetitions, then I'm going to have the wall there just to allow me to not fall every time and allow me to stay up in the handstand. So use it more as a spotter to help me as needed. Now also we have the pike press handstand, we have the tuck press to handstand, and we have something in the middle, so hybrids of those. And you can do majority of those drills exactly the same. So I could do a pike press to handstand using the wall. So come in there, legs together, pass through pike up to that position, and then come back off the wall at the top. I could do the same with the eccentric. So I'm actually going to bring the hands a little bit closer. They felt too far away when I just done that. Now I pass through that same thing, where now I'm going to push low back to the wall, mid back to the wall, upper back to the wall, finish, tiptoes on the floor. Now obviously pike's seen as harder than straddle, so it's harder to push into the wall because my legs are sticking out more. The lever arm is longer and it's trying to pull me in that direction, where with the straddle and the tuck, the legs come in closer. So the tuck would be exactly the same. Look at the concentric first. So from there, heels to butt, pass through tuck, up on the wall, come back off. Same thing on the way down. Back shoulders against the wall, come through tuck, push low back into the wall, mid back, upper back, tiptoes to the floor. If you're after more press handstand work, check out this video. If you're after handstand balance, check out this video. Stick any comments or questions down below and I'll speak to you next time.